Hi everyone, welcome back to Know the Social Sector interview series. We have Richa today with us, who is the co-founder and CEO of Labhya. And Labhya has been doing amazing in the sector now, working with uh, social emotional learning and also scaling their impact from last 2 years. So today we will know more about Labhya and welcome to the series, Richa. It's so good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sanjana. Really grateful to be here and here to answer any questions that I could help with.
To start with, I would like you to give your introduction. How did you start Labhya, and what is the real story behind Labhya?
Yes. So I think for me, I'm a teacher turned entrepreneur. So I spent about a decade teaching in low income classrooms across India. And I started teaching as a volunteer when I was 16 years old. So a lot of what I learned about myself, about the world, about my kids came, and of course, my purpose came from being inside the classroom. Um, and I think it's in that journey that I kind of realized that there was a systemic gap where even a high will teacher like myself was only sort of boiling down to being a great math or social science instructor, but I wasn't really preparing my children for the life of adversity that they were living outside of the school. And that and many other sort of incidences changed my perspective on what I wanted to do and how I saw the problem and the need for children's well-being in public schools, in the public education system. And around that time, fortunately, I met with my co-founders, Vedant and Malika, and we started Labhya. Currently at Labhya, I mean, it's been 6.5, 6 years now. So it's been a long journey and there's a longer journey to go. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Thank you for sharing. um yeah, Malika and Vedant, like, we couldn't get them here, but yeah, I'm very sure you three being a support system for each other, that is where, like, that is how you are progressing with respect to programs within Labhya. Could you please talk a bit about the programs that you have at Labhya, and which states are you working right now in?
Right. So Labhya partners with state governments to help them institutionalize social emotional learning and children's well-being programs. And in some states, that looks like a daily well-being class. And essentially, we work with 2.4 million children today, currently across 22,000 schools who are experiencing our programs. And we do this in Delhi, Uttarakhand, and Tripura. So it's a diverse set of states that we have been working in.
When you said 2.4 million, right? How are you reaching out to, like, what is your approach to reach out to these many students at one time?
Yeah, so a big part of our programming is doing a train the trainer model where we work with a group of master trainers and we also enable the government and support the government in capacitating teachers to be able to facilitate social emotional learning in their classrooms. And that is how we are able to reach so many children.
Let's go move forward towards the career pathways. What does a career pathways in Labhya looks like? And how, like, for example, in few organization, it starts with associate to leadership, right? How is it for you?
That's an interesting question because Labhya is a growing team and we are recruiting for all kinds of roles currently, right from director level, associate level, and everything in between. Labhya is still a growing organization, and we value attitude and smarts more than skills. So that is one thing that is really important to us. So even in our recruitment strategy, we look at your attitude to learn, to be able to adapt, to be agile, your sort of level of transparency, your relationship with feedback, and a track record of just getting things done much more than your absolute skills and the degrees that you have. So that is one thing to keep in mind, as a person on the other side. We are recruiting for roles across, and in terms of leadership, it is linear in some ways, but also exponential in many other ways. So while we do have, associates and then leads and then associate directors, and CXOs, we are still growing that part of the organization and making it more organized. But that is not the only way to grow at Labhya. We also have ways to identify diamonds in the dust, as we call them, and give them a chance to grow exponentially in leadership positions. So if somebody is at associate level of Labhya, doesn't mean that they are not leading a project end to end, doesn't mean that they are not negotiating, budgets. That does not mean that they may not immediately pick up a bigger project basis their own experience and leadership capacity. So a big reason Vedant, Malika, and I are here is because people bet on us when we were really young and we didn't have any pedigree or college degrees, etc. So we're trying to change that mindset in the space that there is only one way to grow. And just one last thing is that we have an incredible function at Labhya called the Founders Office, which is basically really entrepreneurial young people who are leading things. And age is not a factor there, experience is not a factor there. It's just that they are leaders, they're exceptional, and we're coaching them to become better leaders, better team members as they grow. So that is also another way to grow at Labhya.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because young people like us and the people like young lot which will be coming in the sector, they require space, because everything is changing from their mindset, from their degrees, from their attitude, to also how the world is moving after post COVID, right? So that's an amazing thing to hear. Because you spoke a lot about functions at Labhya, would you also like to spread some light on what does a culture look like at Labhya for you?
Yes, I do think that you should ask Labhya's people that answer. And I'm sure I'll try my best to explain, but I'm sure they have more nuance to it. But I think the culture at Labhya is largely defined by just getting things done. I think that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, the feeling of being a part of a sports team, right? So we are very intentional about being very transparent with team members who are joining in, and even in the recruitment process, about how we function. I think the three major things that we use as a definition of our culture: the first is transparency. The second is openness to working on feedback. So receiving and working on feedback, and also giving feedback, which can be very hard for young people. And the third is taking initiative and being a leader, right? So I think those are three very simple things that you need to sort of, if I had to say, crack an interview at Labhya.
Yeah, that's a pro tip again. What is the starting salary in Labhya? And what are the how do you have a fixed structure or a transparent structure which talks about salaries as well?
Yes, so that is something we are working on. We are still a growing team, and we started sort of hard first. So we are not experienced, corporate former employees or experienced entrepreneurs. And we are working with experts on really defining what that means for us and how we could make it more transparent. A lot of organizations like Stir Education are a inspiration for us, because they make their bands public and they're very transparent about the way they recruit financially. So that is something we are definitely working on. I think currently our major focus is to not define young people's salaries basis their experience, because I think that is a big stereotype that I've seen many organizations, for profit, etc., have, that if you're a fresher, you have to have like really low bands, but we don't recognize the fact that these are people who are moving to Delhi, which is an expensive state or a big state, to work with us. And if their financial situation is not sorted and taken care of, how will they give their best at work? Working with more young people who are not as privileged as I am has also helped us define this, knowing that people have to send money home, then every morning you have to fight for electricity and water and renting a room and roommate situations, etc. It can be really stressful, and honestly, money can solve a lot of that. And so our starting bands for young people are much higher compared to the sort of market standards at nonprofits, but we are definitely working towards making this more transparent.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. And understanding about not defining salary based on experience, but also taking care of this particular aspect, because money actually does solve lots of problems. One thing, I personally also want to know about is like Labhya has been into the news, in different social media sites about different awards, credibility stories, etc. Few of them being Forbes 30 under 30. You have been a young impact leader. Only like one out of two young women in the UNICEF, India's UNICEF board, and many others. Right? Do you want to talk about few achievements that Labhya has?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for listing those. I'm really grateful. However, I do have to say that a lot of these achievements are because our government partners and our funders and the people who guided us and who are mentoring us trusted us. And so while this might look very fancy, but it's really just a lot of work that has got gone into the work that we do, and also the people who have trusted us. So I think all of this is a reflection of that. I don't know if there's anything particular I want to highlight, but I want to share that now we are moving into a phase as an organization where our senior leadership is emerging. We have amazing young leaders emerging, and over time, beyond Richa's sort of achievements, I hope we are able to see them shine just as much and more, because they deserve to. And over time you will see them sort of being everywhere and talking about children's well-being and being the biggest advocates.
Sure. One thing which was very exciting for most of the people in the sector, I remember one of your LinkedIn posts talking about Rare Fund. Do you want to talk about it? Because that was something like, because it's a trust based philanthropy, right? We are moving towards it. Organizations in India getting opportunities like that and acquiring those opportunity also means a lot for
Yeah.
many of us.
So recently, Selena Gomez, who is a global icon, she's a musician. I grew up listening to her music, and I'm sure many of us did. She has been a very big mental health champion and philanthropist. And very recently, her brand expanded to Asia, and within Asia, Labhya became their first grantees. And so she runs this fund called the Rare Impact Fund, and she herself has been a very big champion of well-being, social emotional learning globally. So it was a happy surprise when she reached out to us. And honestly, initially we thought that this was a spam email, but we of course got into conversation, and we're extremely honored to have her support. She's quite hands-on, and we had the opportunity to also meet her in person very recently in the US. And it's really encouraging to have such a global personality personally trust us with her resources and for the work that we do and recognizing us. And of course, I think when I met her in person, it was confirmed that she is really humble, and the way that she does her philanthropy is very similar to the kind of person that she's and the values she holds. So it was very encouraging for our entire team, and of course us.
Thank you for sharing that. You have been into the ecosystem for a while, transitioning from a teacher to an entrepreneur, being a trainer yourself in the initial days at Labhya. What is a message that you want to give to youth who are exploring career in the social sector?
I'm not very good at giving gyan, but I would say, because I'm also a recruiter now, as in my role, to really find people who can bet on you as an individual first, and try to ensure that you are able to prioritize your learning, right? So, while your first few jobs might not be in a very stable organization, or might be a smaller organization, it's maybe no one knows their name, but if you're working directly with an amazing leader, if you're doing many things that you might not be able to do in a bigger organizations, I would say that is more valuable. I will say that that comes with a lot of privilege, because a lot of us are providing for our families and also wanting to work in the social sector, and not everyone has the privilege of working in a smaller organization with smaller pay or no pay. And in those situations, I would genuinely request you to talk to the founders, talk to the CXOs, talk to the leaders, and even in big organizations. And trust me, after being mentored by all these amazing entrepreneurs in India who are running like these huge organizations, they always feel like they should talk to their people more. So if you just reach out, I'm sure they will make time. So just overcome that hesitation and find a mentor.
Thank you for like telling that. Um, just one last question for you. You started Labhya. What is a message you wish to give to those who want to start their own organizations?
Just start. Just start, and everything else will fall into place, and try to find really amazing co-founders, because I was lucky to have them.
Thank you, Richa. Thank you for such an insightful conversation and a happy conversation. Not so much of gyan, not so much of technicalities, but being honest about what you feel as a human as well. So we are so happy to have you here. Thank you for joining the call today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and all the best to you folks. You're doing some amazing work. You're filling up a really, really important gap in the sector that exists, that we all struggle with, which is talent and how to build our organizations. I mean, I definitely do. And I'm looking forward to receiving your advice on that. And thank you for having me.
Sure. Thank you.